We should be good to go now.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to hit the intro button. Okay, we're live. I'll hit intro.
Yep. Just got notified. I just got notified.
You're good. You're good.
Oh my god.
Okay, we're live. Well, welcome. Holy smokes. Welcome to the Blender Noobs. What is it? Vlogcast?
Yeah, we'll call it the vlogcast. I mean, it's essentially, like it is a podcast with our bi-weekly streams. It's our little, noobcast. Yeah.
Noobcast. Holy smokes. We've just christened that word.
Yep.
Welcome to the Noobcast. We are live. I am the Checkpoint Professor.
And I am Melting Face 3D.
Yep. And for those who aren't aware, we're streaming live on our YouTube channel where you can catch up on all past episodes and future tips and tutorials on Blender 3D as Mike and I continue to blunder through the process of learning Blender 3D. One of us better than the other, I must say, to get off right off to it. But Mike, really briefly, why don't you introduce yourself, then I'll do the same.
Yeah, so my name is Mike Reese, also known as Melting Face 3D. Been working with 3D for 15, 18 years now. I work for a software company that does some e-learning, and I like telling stories, and that's me.
Yep, and really quick, I'm a university professor at the University of Utah where I teach video game design, and I worked for Disney for several years as a level designer on Disney Infinity and a bunch of other titles for Disney, and now I'm learning Blender. That's the biggest challenge of my life right now.
No, not the biggest. No, it is one of the most funnest. It is a fun challenge.
By the way, anybody watching this, if you're not watching it live, which more than likely you're not because we have one concurrent viewer right now, but if you're watching this post video, we stream live every other week on Tuesday evenings. And if you want to come in and chat with us, show us some of your art or anything you're doing in Blender, we'd love to show it live on our stream.
Absolutely. That'd be fun.
But as far as today's action-packed episode, usually we start with some Blender news. I don't think we have any, but we are going to show some progress we have on our projects. And if you're here chatting, come chat with us. But I've actually got a little bit of an update to show this week. Mike has an update on his progress and possibly some incredible tips and tricks.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do on this show is we talk Blender, we talk 3D, we talk techniques, and we talk indie game development. And that's definitely Gabe's realm, the Checkpoint Professor's realm. So I'm excited to see what Gabe is cooking up.
All right, so should I kick it off this time?
That would be awesome. I would love to know because you've been planning, you've been thinking about, you've been gestating on this project for a long time. Can you just give us like an overview of what your thoughts are? What are you trying to do? And then show us anything that you got.
Yeah, so for the last several years, it's been a few years now, I've had this little game project that I've had in the back of my head. I'm actually not going to go into too much detail of it on the program because I'm trying to keep some of it close to the chest. Honestly, it's not like a mainstream type game. It's more like a passion project. But it revolves, the general premise of it, the starting point is actually derived from a Temple Run-esque type game that I'm putting a twist on it. And I've had this idea even when I worked at Disney. And honestly, when Disney shut down and I went into full-time education, part of my goal was, hey, I'm happy to go out of development as long as I'm working on my own stuff. And turns out being a professor is pretty busy. Turns out I'm working on a lot of stuff with other students, and we did have game jam projects, but we really sat down, and it's just been really busy. Because apart from being a professor, I am a father too, and a husband, and it takes a little bit of time. But anyway, so this last week is the first time I've made some like real progress on my idea. And to help speed up the process, and this happens a lot in video games, is you start from somewhere that gets you further along. Like Mike, you're familiar with the term kit bashing, right?
Absolutely. That's just for any other noobs out there like us. Kit bashing is where you take some pre-done assets and you use them to put them together, to bash them together, to make other things, to make other objects.
Yep. So I really want to make a mobile game that I can continue to iterate on as a kind of a passion project. And when I talked about this with Mike a few episodes ago, I decided to do it all in Blender as far as like the modeling and all that aspect. And I was very reluctant, honestly, because I'm so much faster in Maya.
Yeah.
But needless to say, I found a great tutorial for an endless runner that kind of gave me all the starting points that I would need to kick off what I need. And what I decided to do, and actually, Mike, we can talk about this, is because I've kind of created my own projects in the past to do in Blender, but they were really self-driven. And what I found out is like, you know what? Really, there's no shame in going back to tutorials. And so I've been having a lot of fun finding tutorials to kind of teach me the processes and all the stuff I need to do as I'm working on this game. So I found this this tutorial for an endless runner, and I went through all the visual scripting for that. And so what it gave me was a start to finish basis of a mobile game. And really, it's not a particularly fun endless runner, and that's okay because in honestly, next week it's not going to be an endless runner anymore. It's going to be my vision. But I went from soup to nuts, everything that tutorial had shown me, so I really understood what I was changing and taking away, right? So I could build on a firm foundation. And so after doing that, a couple days ago, it came time to, honestly, and I'll show this in just a second, replace the mannequin, which is the general character in Unreal templates, because I hate it. I hate seeing the mannequin because I grade so many student projects with that student mannequin. And and nothing screams this is a Unreal template than that mannequin running and jumping around. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of him and put it in a cube. And then I will model that cube in Blender, and I will show Mike that cube at the Blender Noob Show, and Mike will be like, holy crap, that's the most amazing cube I've ever seen. And
I have no idea. I mean, I have no doubt that's going to happen.
and so I actually looked in how to replace the mannequin on YouTube, and then I saw this like Roblox character tutorial that was rigged, and you did like a simple idle animation and a simple run animation. And I'm like, you know what, that's probably a little bit better than the cube, even though I'm not going to use that character. I will put that in my game.
That's awesome.
So that's what I did. So I'm going to show that really quick here.
Perfect. I would love to see it and ask you a few questions on it.
Yeah, so I'll go through it. So this is still fresh on my mind, but I'll go through how this actually helped me with rapidly learning Blender, because you're putting the stuff into to work, right? So let me switch this to turn that off.
Do you want to make
go. Here we
a
go.
little bit smaller?
Yeah, actually, I could probably just turn both of us off, or I'll make us both smaller. I actually like having us both on screen because you're my bud.
Well, thank you.
And it makes me feel less nervous. Okay, I'm gonna squeeze both of us down here.
Okay, cool.
And then you will do the same. Okay, so we're gonna squeeze both. So Mike and I are still here. When we show Mike later, unfortunately, neither of us will be here because I'm not going to be alone while Mike's talking. Okay, but so Mike, I don't know if you can see this on YouTube, but this is the this is my Minecraft character that I did. And so with the tutorial, I'll post the tutorial down below. What I'm finding is, as I'm finding these tutorials to do what I want in the game, is no tutorial has exactly what I need. So already pretty quickly, I've jumped through through 3 or 4 different tutorials to get this working the way I wanted. So this tutorial I'll show down below. I used the entire tutorial to create this little guy. So as you can see, it's just a Minecraft-esque little fellow, and these are the simple animation rig. And so what I learned, which is different than Maya, is one. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Let me get some water. One is, you had kind of talked to me about this a lot when we were learning it, is pressing tab and switching from edit mode to object mode. Really,
Right.
really throws me off all the time because it just seems like it's more simpler in Maya. You don't have to go in specific modes to select faces and edges and vertices. You just do it, right? So it's weird. So in Blender, you have edit mode, you have object mode, and when you're using joints, you have pose mode. And then you have animation mode and all these different modes to do those specific task type things. And so that's one of the biggest things I kind of took away from this. And then, as well as when I was in animation mode, I'll just pop into that really quick. I was able to use these animation actions to create the idle animation and the walk animation. So if you look, I'll play this amazing animation. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit delayed, so I'm going to be ready, and then I'll see it, and then maybe a little bit of a pause.
When you see it, it's probably going to blow your mind a little bit. But this is the idle animation. And I'll just wait. Yeah, it's just him nodding his head back and forth.
Nice.
So
yeah, there it is.
Be excited. There it is. And then let me stop that. I can remember, pause it. Stop that. We'll go to the here on this little drop down is the walk animation, which is I believe 16 frames long. Oops, I'm clicking the wrong keyboard. And I'll hit play, and then you can see the amazing walk animation. And you'll probably notice I didn't put a lot of time into it.
It's okay. You are nice. Boom, 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 boom.
I'm prototyping. I really don't care.
Yeah. That's the whole point.
Because I haven't designed the character yet, and I didn't plan to. I actually have a friend who's an artist who I kind of pitched the idea to, and I said, what would be a good universal character for this game? So while they're kind of like fleshing out some ideas to come back to me with, this will do. So now, instead of just a cube, I'm going to use this little janky Minecraft dude. And then with Blender, I used this, here's a copy of the mannequin I used for scale. And then with Blender, I exported that as an FBX with the animations. And then in Unreal, I can show you really quick. Here's when I play. So here's him in game. And you can see he's playing the little endless runner right here. Swishes back and forth. So you see right now, spoiler alert, you will not be able to die in my game.
Okay.
So right now he's set to die. And what was great about this tutorial, it's got the game over screen, it's got the restarts, it's got the menu buttons, it's got actually everything, score counters and all that stuff built in, which is great because it's already implemented. So I can just go take that art and recreate my own with it and plug it back in and rip out all the stuff I don't need. So my next plan, Mike, is this is all going to change. The art, this little temporary art that I got from that tutorial, was all going to be ripped out, and it's going to be all gray box placeholder. But the general idea that I'll get into is that this is going to start creating a procedurally generated world that this character will just continue walking on slowly and going through different types of experiences through that. But the biggest difference between this and an endless runner is you don't die.
That's really cool.
Like ever. And so I will find different ways to motivate the player and keep their interest up as they go through it.
That's really cool. I love that you showed it within Unreal. Is this Unreal 4 or 5?
This is 4.26. I decided not to do 5 because it's still in an early state.
Oh yeah, no, I think
and since I'm making it for mobile, maybe it could be released on Steam. I've actually got mobile controls as well as keyboard controls right now, so
that is awesome.
I'm keeping it both. So yeah, so the swiping, the jump, it has a jump right now. So the nice thing, some of the stuff that they've added to this, like the jump, and then you can swipe down to make him bounce down, is I can just disable that and comment it out. And then later on in the process, if I'm like, I really want my game to jump, I can just re-enable it and figure it out. But as is, my current kind of process is I'm going to keep these 3 lanes, and you will have different decisions throughout those lanes as you walk through it. But then you might come up to like cross sections of road where you have to decide, am I going to go left or right? and there will be choices kind of in that, and that will take you into a different kind of situation or scenario based on your choices and a lot of other stuff. So I don't know. It felt like a new and original type of game. It's probably been done before, but that's kind of it's my passion project. So my idea is like every couple months I'll do an update that will change the game completely.
That's awesome. One of the things that I think is really cool with your process is I feel like it would really perfectly mirror the real world in terms of when you do game development. One of the things that you want to do is you want to try and get the game to a working point so you can start testing functionality as soon as possible.
Right.
So what you did was you said, okay, this is what I need. I need to get to a certain point. It doesn't really matter too much about like having the perfect assets in there. I need to get, things that are going to be about the same size and some of these things that, so you quickly frameworked the main structure of the game so that you can start then to build upon it and build upon it and iterate and not think too much about spending 5 weeks on the perfect character that then you rig and then it's in there and it's not working properly
Yeah.
because any number of reasons.
Yeah, and a good example of that I'll actually show you here is so when I went through this tutorial, the reason I chose this little Roblox character is because the first tutorial that I found was actually how to replace the mannequin character, and they had a little ad pop up that said, "Oh, if you want to know how to create a simple character, do this tutorial first." And I thought, well, I don't really need to. I just need to know how to put a block there. But I thought, what the heck? I'll do that other one first, and I did it, and then watched their how to replace the mannequin tutorial. And it really wasn't a very good tutorial.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh crap, this isn't exactly what I needed. It kind of glossed over how to replace the character, but it wasn't dumb enough for me because I'd never done it before. Mm-hmm. So I actually found another tutorial that you created a new character for, and you actually downloaded characters from I think from Infinity Blade or something that are free now in the asset store, and it showed you how to do the idle and walk, right? Okay. But that was for a new starter project. So they actually duplicated the current mannequin, made a brand new one with new animation states, new state machines, and then deleted the old one. Problem was I had created this whole prototype based on the third person character.
Okay.
And so I needed to figure out how to actually not replace it, but swap out the animations, the assets, and the skeletons with that one. Otherwise, I would have to basically rebuild the whole thing again or go through and pick apart everyone. Because I tried that. It took them twice and it broke. And so the nice thing is going through these tutorials is I was able to get that walk cycle working, maybe not the way that it really should be. But because I'd gone through the tutorials, I'd been like, oh, okay, I can kind of take half of these tutorials and then hack it the rest of the way. And that's what I ended up doing so that he would actually start walking because it wasn't working correctly. And I really wanted to show him off walking in here. Actually, that animation state of him walking is actually fired off when you start the game instead of the way it should be. But you would never know, right? You don't care.
Well, because it's endless, so it's almost like a loop anyways.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. And I can have him stop or do whatever I want on the animation tree when he stops. It has the variables set up, so it's like running or not running, right? And so it's fun. So it's kind of fun to like you said, the prototype stage, doesn't matter how you get there. You get it running so you can find the fun. If I really ever paint myself into a corner, I have enough friends who really know Unreal that I can say, hey, can you help me kind of figure out where I went wrong? And honestly, that's what I did day in, day out at Disney is I was either answering questions for someone else who got stuck or asking someone else to help me get unstuck. And that's a huge part of game development.
That's really cool. When you were doing level design, were you having to how did so the levels typically would start out as like concept art, and then those would go to some modeling and texturing artists, and then would you get some block in, some like stand-in geometry to start putting those around, and then to start playing around with it? How would that kind of start?
Couple different ways. Usually we never started with concept art. So
Oh, okay.
typically at that point in the game, the character artists were already hard at work getting the mechanics and the everything. So usually we had a main character with some kind of set mechanics set up. So there was like we knew what the jump height was generally and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times as level designers, you'd go into meetings with other game designers, and for me this may be different at other companies, but I was usually giving like a high level idea, and then I would go just start blocking that in roughly with geometry and trying to figure out how that would actually work in 3D space. And then you take that, go to a meeting, show it to everybody, and they kind of give feedback, and then you'd continue to iterate on that. So that's kind of the approach I'm going to take on this. My next step on this is to actually rip out those pipes and those boxes and the coins and the pickups. I'll keep the pickups in there, but there'll be something else because I don't know what you'll actually pick up, or if it'll be a trigger that sets off a state with that character. Like honestly, it might be as dumb as you step on a piece of gum and you get stuck, or your shoes get untied and you have to like tap on the character to tie your shoes again.
That's cool.
But I'm going to have some side planes, some side tiles on the side that will randomly generate. So occasionally you might be walking through a forest or like a dystopian city, or that was like rocks or desert or that kind of thing. And eventually I'd like to do dumb stuff like, hey, I'd like, what if we put a day-night cycle in this, and how would that affect the gameplay as you're walking down this endless path and it turns night now? What, eyeballs might start popping up, or you might meet a monster. I don't know. So
I mean, it's kind of infinite in
yeah,
what you can really think about, what you can do. That's awesome.
yeah.
One of
So
the Oh no, go ahead, sorry.
no. Go ahead. What are the what?
No, well, the other thing I was going to say is what I really like. The other thing I liked about your approach, and this is where I think a lot of younger artists or people who are right out of college, when it comes to tutorials, because they're so prevalent, and we make tutorials. But we try and give tips and tricks on how to do things. But what happens a lot of times is that you can get into a tutorial loop where all you're doing is tutorials. You're not actually
Right.
applying them towards a project.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think you did really well is that you actually had a project in mind. You actually had like, I need to learn these things for this reason, not just to learn them to learn them.
Right.
Right. So one of the things that is really easy to do is just to keep on doing building up this knowledge but not applying it to anything, and then you kind of lose it. It's kind of like just reading back in when we were in school. It was just buying books, not like science books, but like buying books to help you do ZBrush or to help you do any number of things. And so for for me, and I think for you, the way that we best learn is we have a goal, and you look up what you need to learn, and then you apply that towards your own project to keep the
Yep.
motivation up, to keep the momentum up. Yeah, so it's because it's so easy just to start just doing tutorials and not breaking out of that loop and doing your own thing.
Yeah, and that's the way I like to teach classes as well, like solving a problem that you're actually working on. Actually, funny, when I was this week, I found a YouTube video as I was going through the tutorial rabbit hole, right? And it was a coder. So this applies to coding, but I think it applies to everything. As they said, one of the biggest mistakes people learn when they're trying to learn how to code is just doing tutorials. And the thing is, and they say because with just tutorials, you never actually learn how to problem solve.
Oh yeah,
right?
Because they're solving the problems for you. It's like, oh, I need to do this.
Yeah, and so they're like, I don't understand. I've done 100 tutorials and I still don't know how to code, right? And so they say the biggest thing is like find some problems to solve. And they're actually, for engineers, I haven't looked them up, but they're like websites where they just give you engineering problems. and that's a way of practicing rather than just doing tutorials.
Gosh, that makes a lot of sense. I was actually, and this is going to, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but you know what? I think that this all applies. So what you just said reminds me of when I watched a so this is sometimes I'm just interested in like different types of jobs and what the like what that entails with no interest in going into myself, but there was this guy, and I don't remember who it was, but he actually discussed an interview that he had for like for a programming position, and in the interview it was done virtually, but they actually he got a problem in real time that he had to solve to get like the most efficient way of doing it, and so it makes sense to approach it like here's the problem, how do you attack that to get the best most efficient way to produce the result that's needed, because ultimately that's what's going to be real world. They're not going to give you say, hey, go through this tutorial, and that's not how it works.
Yep.
We have problems that we need to solve, and so how do we solve those with the tools that we have?
Yep. And ironically, what's kind of funny, I know we're just kind of going off on tangents, but this tutorial for this endless runner, the teacher of that tutorial actually made a few mistakes early on that kind of broke the game.
Perfect.
And he doesn't realize it until like tutorial number 20, right?
Oh,
so it's people that if you only went through the first 5 steps, your game wouldn't have worked properly, and you would have just been scratching your head for hours. And I think the stuff that he actually did wrong, I noticed while he was doing it, because I have a lot of experience. So I'd already fixed it, but I thought that was pretty funny. That at the end he's like, "Oh, so this one at the end of this lesson, we're actually going to do some bug fixing because I did this and this and this." But if all you relied on was tutorials, you wouldn't notice that, because you would just say, no, I did exactly what he said. It's not working. This doesn't make sense. I quit. I hate this.
That's a challenge. That's why, working towards a project and building your knowledge set to help solve a problem I think is always going to be a better way to approach that type of learning, rather than just saying, I'm going to learn to do something without any kind of end goal in mind.
Yeah, but so Mike, that is that is where I'm at.
Cool.
And so the next time I see you, I will show you some updates. So I am going to be blocking out more just rudimentary pieces in Blender to add to this. I have more tile sets to create. I've got to actually figure out the process I want to use for how complicated I want it to spawn in those different environments. I have to actually create arrays so that if I want some kind of semblance of cohesiveness with the patterns that arise, I'm gonna actually have to separate those in different components. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I imagine it'll involve a lot of testing as well as other tutorials to figure out how to do that. But I know what I want to do, and so now it's just figuring out how to do it. I'll find out if it's fun. If it's not fun, we'll cut it out and try different things. And this is going to be kind of just a fun side project for me.
That's awesome. And I have so many questions and ideas when we get to that. I would love to know in the future, when we get to that point, like what makes something fun, what decisions you made to make something more fun because something was less fun, or like, just some of the decision making using your vast background of working for Disney and game building and level design.
Yeah, it'll be fun when we get to that. But that's what I have, my friend. So I'd love to hear what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I guess what I can do is share. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, I'm switching. So I've got you up now. So if you share your screen.
Okay. So my background, and I mean, I've shown this Game Boy project now for a few months because I'm working on it on my free time. It's slow going, and I keep on adding things for me to do. But let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen now. Trying to figure out what game that is before.
Yeah. So one of the things that this is gonna be a really quick tip, but what I'm currently doing is I'm putting together two um, like animations. The last one at the last episode, I showed the more story-driven animation where it has a camera move, something's flipping up. There's some story to it per se. Whereas the other thing I'm also wanting to do is just do what I would call a standard turnaround, but add some additional flavor, add some additional spice to it, so that it's more than just a model turnaround. Because for this project, in order to continue advancing my skill set with like Substance Painter and texturing, I did four different versions of this. Uh, I did four different versions of the Game Boy, and so um, what I've done so far is I've done a standard turnaround, you know, for all four different versions. But one of the things I wanted to do is have a specific game playing like within the gameplay field, the screen, while a different game was inside of the Game Boy. Does that make sense?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So what I needed to learn really quickly was, how do I, take like like either like a sequenced, like some sequenced images, or like an MP4. Can that be a texture that I can play and animate? And the answer is yes, and it's actually very easy. So one of the things that I can quickly show here is, so from frame 100 to 300, you can kind of see the game is actually playing in the background, because what I wanted to do is, while this is doing a turnaround, I wanted to have different games playing. And this is the Zelda game. This is Four Swords, which is the game that actually was on the Game Boy Advanced. The Game Boy
Awesome.
Advanced, yeah. So really easily, what you can do is, I'm going to go to the shading, and you can see it here. What you can do is, first you need to get like an MP4 of the game, or you can do like a PNG sequence or a JPEG sequence. So looking at the shader tree, what I have here is some duplicated material. So we have the BSDF. This is your standard principled shader. And if you look at the base color, you can see that I have this Four Swords.mp4. So when you're using the Node Wrangler, you can just do Control T on the BSDF, and that will get you a standard, base color with your mapping, and then your texture coordinate type. So what do we have? So we have the standard, or we have a base color, but I've changed the type from single image, which is default, to movie,
That's cool.
which is really cool. And so you have the frames here, start frame one, the frames one, start frame one, and then you have the offset. The offset is actually what you want to animate. So if you're watching, I'm scrolling through the offset, and you can see it actually is going and playing, or it's scrolling through the MP4. So what I ended up doing was taking that MP4, plugging it in, and then all you need to do is get a mapping node in your texture coordinate node. Because I did unwrap the screen, you want to use UV and not like generator or normal or object. Then you place the vector into the vector, and then that's going to show up on the screen. Then what you'll want to do is use the mapping node to map it in the direction that you want, because when it came in, it was lopsided, or scaled wrong. So I just had to move it with the location. I had to rotate it, and then I actually had to scale it like on the Y to mirror it, and then that fit in pretty much perfectly.
That's super cool.
So that's really cool. And then what I ended up doing was just just so I can go back and forth. So you can see that here was the original texture, which is just a single image. Sorry if you hear my dog in the
No, you're good.
background.
You're good. It's real life.
So if I go and put that in there, this is the original base screen. I'm going to zoom in. You can kind of see it's like the original off screen.
Does it have like specks of dirt on it too?
Of course it does.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. So with that little with the background movie playing, are you able to do kind of like ambient color for the backlight or?
Yeah, so my background in general, I don't have as much quote unquote game experience, but I have video compositing experience. So like it's different from you, but this is kind of um, where things can get pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of passes. One is where I'm going to have a lighting pass where it has the Game Boy like this, where it has the backlight on with some bloom. Okay, so I'm going to do a pass like that, and then I'm also and then the next pass is just going to be without like any bloom and with the like the animated game playing in the back, and then I'm going to composite those together using uh, some track mats within After Effects, so that I can essentially have the bloom is going to spill out right like to create that backlight effect, and then I can do some minor tweaking to the top uh, to this to this image right here to kind of make it to where it feels like it's backlit. That's my goal there.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
going to do two passes and then composite them together. So um, as a quick preview of what this is going to be for a final, what I wanted to do, and this is what we kind of talked about last time, is that I haven't done any final rendering, but what I've done so far, like is I've used Eevee with some lower settings so that I can get a nice view um, for my viewport, and then I've taken that and done some play blasts. That's so that I can time things out. I know, when I need to do some animation. So I've done all that. And now once I do the final render of this with like an ambient occlusion pass and like all those passes and then use Blender cycles because it's a ray tracer, then I'll be able to very quickly swap that out within After Effects and then have it be much more higher quality. So to give you an idea about how things are looking with my play blasts and some compositing that I've done, here's
Oh, that's awesome.
so here's there is music, and again, these are preview renders. They just happen to be with all the textures, and what I discovered was once I did this version, I'm like, oh, I want the game to be playing in the background. Like that's why you want to do preview stuff, so then you can like add those extra details without wasting a bunch of time rendering out full quality videos.
Right, and this, in the games world, this is what we call the juice, right? Like you're able to. This is why you go through iterations, so you can say, oh, you know what would make this more juicy is if that the game were playing in the background. This is looking phenomenal, Mike.
Well, let me so you, I'm going to preview this and I'll play it through what I have so far. But note that I do have another animation that I'm still compositing together. So I'm giving you kind of 50% of what I've done so far.
All right,
And there's music and there's going to be some additional things here.
dude, dude.
So this is the one I'm previewing right now. So like there's going to be like the Zelda. Here's the Castlevania is going to be in this one with the dark version, and then my favorite, the Pikachu version.
Oh my gosh.
So that's I've taken something that you could have made simple and just done like a, you know, like a turnaround, but I wanted to add the extra flavor, the extra bit of juice, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff that, you know, you can do some iterations with and build on the project. And I've learned a ton of, you know, some more After Effects, you know, stuff with like these power blasts and, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
And I can see that you're having a ton of fun with this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I've gone out of my comfort zone. I've been trying to push the color, you know, push the lighting, and so I'm it's a lot of fun. And with these big projects, it's hard to sometimes it's hard to like keep motivation because you keep on adding things. But once you get to a certain point and you have these small wins, like all of a sudden you're saying, "Oh, this is it. I'm getting there. I'm seeing the vision."
You know, and this was all done in Blender. You know, ironically, I was actually having a conversation with my director today, and I was kind of telling him that this little game project I was working on, and he was just gobsmacked that I was using Blender.
Really?
Like, why on earth are you using Blender? And this is the reason right here. Like this project you're working on, I dare you to do a better job on any other software package. You
You
can't.
know, it's been a crazy journey, and it's been a lot of fun being able to learn so many Blender techniques, and you know, it's really motivating because you can do everything that you want, and it's free, and you can share these things, and yeah, it's been a blast. And so I'm really looking forward to getting this finished, sharing it with the community, and you know, talking about the different like aspects of you know what went into this kind of stuff, and so that other people can, you know, make final projects that they're proud of.
I am so stoked, and I'm really excited for, Mike, is after you're done with this project for the Blender Noob Show is actually just sitting down and kind of going over your thought process through the whole thing, because that I think that would be really, for me, that would be really interesting to hear and watch, like from start to finish.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool to do postmortems on our projects.
Have you been doing like have you been like keeping like your play blasts and screenshots and any of the stuff from the beginning to end, or?
Yeah, so with my process, I typically have a just to kind of go behind the scenes here. Like I have a renders folder, but then I have a whip, like a work in progress. And so I've been keeping just so you know, so here's like a clay render of one of the when I got to a certain point, I felt like um I could start to put it together. But then I also have, you know, the original files,
Yeah,
you know, because I have just a so you know,
that's really
kind of
cool.
goes through all of that. But then I also have, and you know, kids, this is something you got to do. These are all my like files that I've been using to like iterate. And so we could go through some of these old files and
Yeah,
like thought processes and all that kind of stuff.
you can kind of show your original block out. I
Yeah,
imagine the clamshell originally was just two cubes, and
it absolutely was two cubes. And if we look at like, I might delete did I delete it? No. See this right here, this little text file? This text file was just the dimensions of like the Game Boy Advance.
oh, that's awesome.
So like this is what my cube was just this exactly.
So what's your plan? Like, do you have any like milestones set up, or is this kind of you're finished when you're finished, just like Nintendo does their games, or is it?
Well, so right, so I'm getting really close. My current milestone is this weekend. I want to finish getting those final touches, you know, and what I mean by final touches is that I need to get footage for all the different games, and then I need to do the final render with these. So using Blender cycles. So I'm going to do a final render. I'm going to use the denoiser. So I'm going to learn some stuff on that to do some teaching around that. So once I do that, then it will this particular part of the project with the turnarounds that will be done. But what's really great is what this little turnaround project has taught me is what I'm going to be doing for my more story driven like animation that I showed you,
Hmm.
where that's nearly done because I've done the animation and I've timed it out in After Effects. So the only thing I need to do on that is there's a few sections where I need to create a background, kind of like I did with the 4 different backgrounds. I need to create like a stylized background, put in some gameplay footage at a certain section, get that animated, and then that will be complete as well. So it's mid-July, about mid-July. I'm hoping to be wrapping up the Game Boy Advanced project, both animations, time to some really cool like audio, fully done by the end of the month, if not pretty early into August. And then that will be done.
Yeah. No, that, you know what? And at the end of it, I love that we're doing this show and documented kind of like the pipeline of a project like this for anyone watching and keeping track. Incredibly valuable insights on like your process and how you've organized everything and set it all up for success.
Well, thank you. And one of the things that I am working on is certain points of this process. I'm going to making like little videos on how to get a clown pass, and what I mean by that is for After Effects, for doing mats and for doing really easy keying. You want to get like a clown pass with your objects in order to do that. And there's a really easy way to do that within Blender, so that then you can get a quick render of that out. And so like that looks like renders, turnarounds, like this right here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So how do we get that out of Blender so that you can use that, so that I can key the screen, right? Because then I can, do some lighting and stuff without having to do a manual rotoscoping, right? That's saves you time. How to, like export your preview renders, how to replace them with final renders in After Effects, how to do some After Effects stuff if you want to composite like your AO over your beauty pass and then like your depth pass. So I'm kind of combining multiple programs with the base being Blender
Yeah.
in order to do the kind of projects that you want. So like I'm taking it from like the video perspective, whereas you're going into like the indie dev, which I think is a fantastic combination for people to kind of learn from.
Oh, it's fantastic. And everything you've just touched on would be like fantastic little tutorial similar to the Substance one you've already put on the website. And I will, eventually, once I'm a little more comfortable and have a little bit more Blender figured out, I'll do some demos of some of the stuff I update to my game as well.
Can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome.
All right, my friend. I think that I'm gonna put our faces back up, but I think that's it this week. This has been awesome. Here,
Yeah, it's been, thanks for everyone that's watching, and feel free to like, subscribe, but also leave a comment with this, with any thoughts or ideas that you have, with any things that you have some like issues with that we can potentially help out with, like future videos. Write some stuff down in those comments for us.
Yeah, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Definitely like and subscribe. That helps us make more of these videos. Hopefully the quality bar is getting a little better as we proceed. I was actually watching some of our older videos. They're a little rough. We're gonna get better as time goes on, but we're excited to be here. We're gonna keep doing this, so we appreciate all the support we can get.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Keep on doing your art.
All right, Blender.
Noobage.